gives me great pleasure to invite to the stage Cormac Riley, who is the Vice President of Traveller Engagement Solutions of Travelport. And Cormac, thank you. Welcome. He's going to talk about beyond the NDC, which I think is going to be very interesting. Thank you. Round of applause for Cormac, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks, Robin. So welcome. Session after this about NDC, and as you can appreciate, there's an awful lot of conversation going on in the industry about NDC. But it's not the only thing going on, and it shouldn't be the only focus of the industry. What I'm going to talk to you today is about how do we use customer experience to drive retailing, and in particular content retailing. Look at what's happening in our industry and in others, and the key question I want you to leave with is, are you doing enough in this space? So Fiona yesterday shared some of the statistics from the Digital Traveller research. So number one was 86% of respondents said the value is more important than the cost. The value is the key to retailing. 42% of respondents said that they want to personalize their own experience, but they want more transparency and control. Others said technology influences my decision, and it's become increasingly powerful, but it has to enhance the experience. So looking at these together gives me some comfort that, things are changing, but are we doing enough? And are they bold enough? So what I want to do is start by exploring some of the key areas of our industry. Start to look at air, look at car, look at hotel, and look at what are some of the trends that are happening in that. So the defining feature of a retailer, as opposed to somebody who produces, a supplier or a manufacturer, is to start with the customer and what they need, not who will buy my product. We're getting more dynamic. So we heard Jeffrey yesterday from Bain speak about how dynamic bundling happens, how people are doing their own bundling. So we're seeing that happening. Moving from art to science, so personalization, the utilization of data to provide that personalized offering. Automation, again, facilitates that personalization. And obviously, we're moving from traditional channels to digital and digital native, and people are experiencing that in their day-to-day lives and in their activities. And they want to see that when they interact with various different brands. So over the last number of decades, we've seen a change in the product diversity. So we started with first class, with coach, moved on, added in premium economy, put in business class. But take the scenario where we are now in 2019. We have hundreds, if not thousands, if not tens of thousands of different approaches to the product. Every airline seat has a different value. And the question is, how do you actually get that across to the consumers and to the end users of the product? So if you take the Starbucks example, when you walk into a Starbucks shop or cafe, there's 80,000 different variations of how you can order a drink from them. Yet consumers have been able to work through that variations and to come up with what they want and can actually articulate that. That's one of the challenges we as an industry have. How do we make that available to the customers? So let's look at the different channels. So this is for an economy fare. So if you take the direct channel, what this is saying is that over 80% of customers do not buy the cheapest product in the direct channel. Or to put another way, the cheapest product is not the right product for them. If you flip that to the indirect side, you almost see the exact opposite here. The question is why? Ultimately, it comes down to is if you can't see it, you can't choose it. So the indirect channel needs to focus on getting better at that upsell. So how are we doing that as an industry? So this is one of the push, and then we've heard, you'll have heard this across multiple different conferences, is the next generation storefront. But what is it trying to achieve? It's trying to normalize that vast array of complexity in the products and to try and make that available for customers and consumers to see. But the key here is to sell on that value. It's not about selling on the price. And I think even in Matthew's session earlier, one of the comments he had was, only one person can be the lowest price. But it's about improving that customer retailing experience. So in my view, a good retailer will merchandise their products in a manner that works for the customer. It's not a one-size-fits-all or one algorithm fits all. But what our job, I suppose, and our role with Travelport is to provide organizations such as your organizations with the data and have the control that you have to be able to make those offers available to the customer. One of the other items that came from our survey was 52% of those surveyed said that not knowing what's included in their booking was the greatest source of frustration. That's up 12% on last year. So as we add complexity to those bundles and to those products, we need to make sure that we can find a way to articulate that clearly to the customers. So let's talk about onboard. So we all know the onboard product is changing and it's evolving. Not just in first class, but we are seeing items such as this for right across the fare classes that are available. 48% of respondents said that augmented reality or virtual reality would help them better understand the product and the solution that they are purchasing. Over 70% of respondents cited the importance of digital and the digital experience as key when they were booking air. Let's touch on product. Now let's talk about pricing. So you'll all be familiar with this in terms of the RBDs. So the step up in pricing. The reality is that's just a workaround. This is a dynamic pricing curve. So small incremental changes in yield for the same product can have a massive impact to the bottom line. So if you look in terms of what we've exploded out here, on a typical fare stack and then the different buckets there, you're losing customers because you priced too high, but you also have customers where you could have charged more. Airlines are saying there's going to be more products and more price points. They aren't stopping there. They're looking at what are the other pricing options and how they are growing. So take loyalty. What does loyalty schemes typically do? They reward past behavior to try and influence future behavior. There's probably nobody in this room who does not consume digital products through a subscription model. And I know there's been a lot of different models tried over the last period of time and are continuing to be tried around subscriptions for travel and particularly for air products. If you take an example here of EasyJet Plus, they've kind of turned it a little bit on its head. So this is actually to have you work to provide capabilities for your future travel. So by a subscription, annual subscription, you get access to all these across your flights. So it does kind of change things there in terms of change the perspective from the traveler, but also the positioning from the airline in terms of what behavior it's trying to drive. So we're going to move on from air and look at some of the other parts, hotels, and touch on car/mobility. These are areas that typically can be higher margin, but maybe there at the moment is a lost opportunity in certain areas. So, taking the hotels, again, significant changes in the product, in the retailing, in the positioning. How many people here have got off a flight late at night, got to their hotel, and then have seen a queue or a line that they got to stand behind before they can check in? Properties are providing that capability to skip the queue. They're providing, experience before you go. And it really is mobile that's driving this. Choose your room before you actually arrive at the hotel. Use your phone as your key. Decide what temperature you want the room to be at once you're in there. So you want the blinds open, blinds closed. The last one is the interesting one, which is, again, ordering from the room and the ability to upsell from the property perspective. So, again, you're getting in late, you want some room service. Why not order it when you're on the way to the hotel and have that available there for when you arrive? So it's that interaction between the customers and the digital experience that is actually driving advances in retailing. There's very, very few properties now, around the world that do not have some form of pre-trip, pre-visit digital experience. You can walk into a hotel, virtual, you can decide I want to go and see the gym first, I want to see what my King Suite looks like, and walk through that in a virtual, either through a 360-degree walkthrough or through a VR. And that, again, provides different abilities for retailing. And how do you take that experience and drive incremental revenue, upsell, and further opportunities? Mobility. So we had Sandeep from Cream speak to this in absolute detail yesterday, and it was very, very interesting to hear some of the, particularly the concept of multi-modality around the mobility side. So looking at the different types of mobility that can be used at different parts of the journey. It was recently Ava's Budget Group CIO that he said 40% of travelers would use a micro vehicle. Now, a micro vehicle is anything with 2 or less seats. Could be electric scooter, could be a very, very small car. But they've now started to offer scooter and bike rentals, and they've also partnerships with Uber, with Lyft. And it is this multi-mobile approach in terms of the connectivity between the different modes, depending on where you're at in the journey cycle. So, for example, even Zipcar, you can utilize that now to link in with public transport. So you can actually see timetables and how that links to the next step in the model as well. Again, rideshare, it's going to kill the car rental industry. Let's look at what Hertz are doing. They've actually entered into a partnership with Uber and with Lyft to allow drivers to rent the cars on short-term rental basis. So rather than looking at this from the death of the car rental industry, as we've heard multiple different people speak about or multiple different conferences, this allows them to extend their brand and retailing opportunities beyond what is the norm and what is their core business. This allows them to capture new markets and also, critically, to stop that disintermediation. But it does blur that line of competition between old business model and new business model. So no conference would be complete without a reference to blockchain. So here's ours as part of this. But it's in the context of that customer experience. And one area to improve in that is around commission settlements. So utilizing blockchain technology, smart contracts, we've been working with a number of different partners on this, including IBM, including BCD, to look at the utilization of smart ledger, or of distributed ledger technology and smart contracts for hotel commission collection. We're at MVP, we're bringing it out to pilot, and we'll be looking to extend that out over the next period of time. So one of the areas that blockchain, there's been a lot of hype around it, is how do you therefore then take that and put it down into concrete use cases and where it can be used. Feedback to date is very, very positive. There is information on our website and blogs around what is actually covered within this, so I'd encourage any of you to go and have a look at that over the next period of time. So, we've spoken about air, spoken about car, spoken about a hotel. So what I wanted to do is look at in terms of digital disruption at different stages in that journey. And Matthew showed you sort of the full customer journey mappings that we've done. And we're only touching on certain aspects of it as part of this. Search. Concept here is the end of search as we know it. So search is typically now evolving what they call the 3 V's. Visual, voice, and vertical. So on the first images there you'll see in terms of visual searches. This actually goes back multiple number of years. However, this is growing much, much quicker than general text-based search. On the voice side, Google have recently come out and said there are now over 1 billion devices globally that have Google Assistant available within them. So when we talk about voice search, we don't necessarily mean just speaking into your mobile phone. That is an option there, but it is how do you utilize home assistants, how do you utilize those type of speakers to actually generate the voice search, to get the response, and then have the action associated with it. I'm not going to touch necessarily on vertical, because vertical search is where you search within a particular niche. And that, again, is seeing exponential growth compared to traditional search. Interesting here is the Emirates example, where embedded within an ad, or within an ad, is you have the ability to interact with the brand through that. So you think of the response rates that you can drive by having that interaction included within it and to be able to take the next action, which ultimately is retailing that scarce resource. So Dan spoke in detail yesterday about the look and book and the utilization of visual search in the travel industry and how that would work. But what we're also seeing is a significant expansion into other areas. Predictive, anticipatory. Apologies for an Irish person, that's a difficult word to say, so go with me on that. But the middle one there is an interesting one, which is where a company called TapTrip. And what they do is they have an interaction with your calendar. So if they see that you are flying, or sorry, you have a meeting schedule that's not in your home location, they can actually push out flights to you that would be suitable for you to get there for that particular meeting. So it's taking away that inconvenience of having to go and search for items and utilizing that. Obviously, when there's new things in search, Google is right at the forefront. So the last one here is where they've identified that you're actually going to a yoga class, and what they're doing is they're sending you a silent car with gentle driving to make sure that Zen feeling happens as soon as you start to travel to that yoga class. So,
Manchester to Barcelona for one adult, going out on the 14th of October, returning on the 19th of October.
So I know we saw this yesterday. The reason I have it here today is to show you, I suppose, the comparison. So on the left-hand side, what you were watching there was in terms of somebody going through the 15 to 17 different items to get them to the same point that took 1 to 2 seconds and one interaction through voice. Same results, much quicker, how people want to interact. Once you're at the airport, what are we seeing happening there? Hyperlocation and how you can tailor retailing for that hyperlocation. So I've arrived at the airport 40 minutes early. I'm walking through the concourse. In the background, they know that I am a loyalty member of Starbucks. I have a card. I was there last week. I ordered a latte. They know that 40 minutes before my next flight, I have time to pop in. These type of messages can pop up on screen for you to divert you to that. So think about how that retailing can occur when you start looking across the data streams that are available. And is that geolocation and utilizing that? Now, Apple have changed things recently and allow you to actually tailor that right down to fine levels of granularity. And we will continue to see that and continue to see people using it where they have opted in just because they're seeing the benefit associated with it. In-trip. Interesting here is we're seeing platforms like Genera spring up that are looking to bring together the fragmented aspects of a trip. So in this scenario, it knows what hotel I have, it knows the gap between my flights, can offer me my ability to store my luggage, can actually see that I'm a loyalty tier member, a high loyalty tier member of one solution, offer me an upgrade on another, and can actually see that all together in one trip. It's not going to be long before, as consumers, we will be able to offer our loyalty to multiple different brands. So why would airline A not look to pay for my loyalty when I'm currently with airline B? And you'll start to see trading occurring within that. How do we retail in that scenario? So it's not just, as you're traveling through airports, but also on board. So this here is an example from Level, part of the IAG group. They're looking at pioneering the pair and pay, where you pair your phone to the IFE and you're able to order different sort of, whether it's food or whether it's the onboard Wi-Fi. It doesn't have to pair to the IFE, or to the seat back. It will pair to the IFE, so it doesn't even need the seat backs if you take that further forward. But this also then creates the opportunities where somebody is on a flight. What do they want to happen when they arrive home? So how do you have that retailing capability, and how can you extend that out to other partners and third parties? Last-minute inventory is going to become the next battlefield for car and hotel upsell. And with the new technologies, you can get to that very, very quickly. Most of us have sat in plane, looked to pick out the menu. If it's a reusable one, it may have somebody's dinner from last night stuck on it, or maybe baby food attached to it. We start to see this in terms of changing, in terms of able to see virtual interaction with. So you hold your phone up over your tabletop, and you can actually see what that meal looks like. Customer experience, seeing that, driving that retailing aspect. This is a quote from William Gibson, which actually goes back a good few years. I think it's relevant for us in the travel industry. So the even distribution. What I want to talk now is around what we're seeing in other industries and how they have moved further ahead in that retailing aspect. What can we learn from them? So, the video here, somebody has picked up their chicken pieces, scanned it. The app or the solution's been able to say to them, well, actually, if you combine that, there's no point in having just chicken with no flavoring with it. Here's where added with tikka masala. Not just in terms of giving you the recipe, but actually providing you with wayfinding within the supermarket to exactly where that is. Cross-sell, upsell. You've changed that basket of $3.99 to that basket of £6, £7 or euros. Any sneaker fans out there? Try before you buy. Brings a whole new meaning to it. See here, somebody is actually using that. Why? Again, it's the experience of being able to see that in the virtual world, but to drive the retailing aspect of it. So, what I want you to have a look at here is, this is where we're seeing the future going in terms of that mixed reality. So in this, the guy's sitting at home watching his NBA match, and what he's able to pull up in real time is all the statistics associated with that. to be able to have that interaction, to carve out one player. This isn't the future, this is happening now and today. How long is it before we start to see this technology happening within the travel industry? Are we finally going to start to see the concept of that virtual tourism, virtual holidays? But more importantly for us as an industry, how do we utilize that to retail and to drive and to use that customer experience in a retailing world? As William Gibson said, the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed yet. Thank you very much.